you talk about terror? What about for me? I've been terrorized all my days. All my days.
In Eric Hobsbawm's book, Bandits, he examined how outlaws such as Robin Hood and Pancho Villa transformed themselves into social revolutionaries. The filmmakers Dan Cohen and Kim Ives have done the same in their three-part film Another Vision, Inside Haiti's Uprising. They tell the story of Jimmy Barbecue Cherisier, who has united half of Port-au-Prince slums through the formation of the revolutionary forces of the G9 family and allies. The Armed Neighborhood Federation is in the crosshairs of the U.S. empire, which seeks to discredit it and blame it for the chaos and violence that plagues the country. The filmmakers chronicle Cherisier's transformation from a stellar member of Haiti's police force into a revolutionary leader, the disinformation campaign waged against him by the U.S. government and Haitian oligarchy, and how his neighborhood is punished for its effective resistance. The story they tell is one more chapter in the over 2 centuries of Haitian resistance to outside domination, following the only successful slave revolt in human history, which overthrew the French slaveholding class in 1804. Haiti has been paying for this revolt ever since, literally. France only recognized Haiti's independence on the condition that it repay the slaveholders for their lost quote-unquote property. Payments that were still being made on that, quote, independence debt, end quote, in the 20th century. The country has been economically crippled since its independence. The Western powers have installed a series of pliant and corrupt governments. The U.S. repeatedly carried out military interventions, including its invasion and occupation of Haiti from 1915 through 1934. The U.S. formed and trained the Haitian army and police, used to crush liberation movements. Washington tolerated the father-son dictatorship of Francois Papadoc and Jean-Claude Baby Doc Duvalier as a counterweight to Fidel Castro's Cuba. The Duvalier's notorious paramilitary corps, known as the Tonton Macoute, killed as many as 60,000 Haitians from 1957 to 1986. Over the 20th century, Washington turned Haiti into a plantation and sweatshop for U.S. corporations, leaving the country the poorest in the Western Hemisphere. An anti-imperialist former Catholic priest, Bertrand Aristide, was elected president in 1990, shocking the U.S. He was overthrown in the 1991 military coup. He regained the presidency from 1994 to 1996 and from 2001 to 2004, when he was ousted in another coup by right-wing ex-army paramilitary units that invaded the country from across the Dominican border. Following that second successful coup, UN troops occupied the country from 2004 until 2019, oversaw the suppression of popular movements, exploited impoverished women in the sex trade, sanctioned the privatization of state industries and social services, and introduced cholera, a disease previously unknown in the country, killing an estimated 10,000 people. Haiti has been left without a functioning government or infrastructure, including a health care system, ever since. Nearly 60% of the population lives in poverty, 30% are food insecure, and 50% lack access to clean water. Waves of Haitians have fled the country. Gang violence has turned whole parts of Haiti into lawless enclaves. In 2003, Aristide's lawyers calculated that France owed Haiti some $22 billion in restitution for the unjust independence debt, and Washington owes a comparable amount of reparations for the crimes committed during its military occupations. But the Western powers are determined to once again thwart the aspirations of the Haitian people, who, despite it all, keep resisting. Joining me to discuss another vision inside Haiti's uprising, which you can watch on YouTube, are its directors, Dan Cohen and Kim Ives. So Kim, let's begin with you and just talk about your own connections with Haiti and what prompted you to make the film.
Well, I was sort of drafted into the Haitian liberation struggle fresh out of school. I jettisoned Harvard to go work in the trenches, as it were, and one of my first assignments, was to make a film about Haiti, which I did in the period from 1977 to 83. I won a second prize at Cannes. It was a pretty big deal back in the day. And then I thought when I'd finished that, I was done with my service to the Haitian struggle, but they said, no, now we're starting a newspaper. So I've been doing Haitian newspapers ever since, until also working on other film projects along the way. But this one was sort of our biggest project in many years with Dan Cohen and Uncaptured Media. And really our work at Haiti Liberté, which is the paper I work with in my day job, is to create the conditions, the information, the ideological pushback to the dominant narrative. And this is a case in point. This is one of the strongest. The newspaper was not enough. People don't read as much anymore these days, and so film is really the way to go, and we put our all into working on this with Dan, and think it's going to make a big difference.
So there were 2 points that were made in the film that I thought were very important. One is what happens when countries like Haiti are ruthlessly exploited by imperial powers, that it leads to a kind of breakdown. That's something that, of course, I saw in Central America, where I spent 5 years, in countries like El Salvador, Honduras, that there's nothing intrinsic within their culture that leads to this kind of anarchy and chaos and lawlessness, but it is the distortions from outside forces. And the other thing that I think you did really well in your film is tell the story from the perspective of the resistors, who are very effectively demonized. And one of the things that you highlight in the film is the complicity of human rights groups who essentially follow the dictates of the State Department and the dictates of those who fund them, the Soros Foundation, and etc. So let's begin, Dan, by talking a little bit about Cherisier, who he is, and why he's important. I mean, how pervasive that campaign is. The media, of course, as you point out, echoes, essentially discredits him. I mean, I should also note that resistance leaders are uniformly referred to as bandits, as was Sandino in Nicaragua or anywhere else. But maybe you can speak to that, Dan.
Exactly, Chris. Jimmy Barbecue Cherisier, barbecue is his nickname, which he was given when he was a kid, growing up in the streets of Port-au-Prince, and not because, as if you watch the Vice documentaries, you'll hear it's because he likes to burn people alive, but it's actually because there were a lot of other Jimmys in the neighborhood, and his mother sold grilled meats on the street, and so he just got nicknamed Barbecue. So it's kind of a little taste of the propaganda campaign that is waged against Cherisier. But he was a cop, grew up in the slums, became a cop, and did very well, and within the confines of the system did what he could to sort of protect his neighborhood and do everything he could. But essentially, he was the sacrificial lamb for a political project that the U.S. and the OAS, the Organization of American States, wanted for a sort of regime change in Haiti. And so they needed a bad guy, a fall guy, and that became Cherisier. And so the flaws that he saw in the system were, he says, meddling tool, and also by George Soros's Open Society Foundation, among others. And the leader of the RNDDH, Pierre Esperance is his name, is well known among anti-imperialists who have followed Haiti because he was a central figure in the 2004 coup d'etat against Bertrand Aristide, and so he's essentially playing a very similar role today, yet has kind of somehow flown under the radar of progressive movements, and so that's one of the things that we really highlight in our film. So essentially, Cherisier has been the subject of a very sophisticated disinformation campaign to make him who are in cahoots with the United States and who are basically acting on behalf of foreign powers that want to exploit Haiti and maintain the sweatshops for their own profit. In terms of arms, this is 100% an armed revolutionary movement. I mean, I'm going to borrow a quote from the great Kim Ives, that Cherisier is Aristide with a gun. If you look at the discourse that Cherisier uses, it's incredibly similar to the discourse of Bertrand Aristide. And, they talk about class struggle and the conditions that the masses are living in and the need to improve these conditions. Except what happened to Aristide is he was couped 2 times by the oligarchy in cahoots with the United States. And so I think sort of Haitian consciousness has learned the lesson that if you don't have arms, you can't really carry out any kind of real social revolution. And so Cherisier has, is well trained with arms and knows how to use them and knows that they're very important.
Kim, let's talk about the campaign against him within Haiti. The government has, I think, issued an arrest warrant for him, or they haven't acted on it. He himself is in physical danger, clearly. But speak a little bit about what they've done against him and against his movement.
Well, what's really interesting to me is that I think the U.S. and its allies in Haiti recognized the danger of Cherisier even before we did. We were publishing the reports of the RNDDH on Cherisier and the massacre, so-called massacre in La Saline, really up till 2019. And really it was in early 2021 that my director sat me down and said, "Listen, Kim, we've got it all wrong. This guy is serious. He's good." It was almost a reflex because there have been bad guys in the past. In the 1991 to 94 coup, there was a fellow called Toto Constant who led a death squad called the Frap. He was a scoundrel. He was a death squad leader. The same thing for Guy Philippe in the 2001 to 2004 campaign to overthrow Aristide. He was working in the cops, the army to cops, and tried to make a coup and finally came back and succeeded in making a coup. So people were just saying, okay, this is the new Toto Constant, the new Guy Philippe. No, this is something else entirely. But they were able to really take that and, present it. And in a way, the irony is a lot of the struggle we've been making to get to truth is not even so much against the mainstream, against the Haitian oligarchy radio stations and newspapers in the U.S., but even against the left in the U.S. and in Haiti, who have totally swallowed this line, hook, line, and sinker.
Kim, let me stop you there because I only have
when they took a vote back in November of 2022.
Okay, we're going to stop there. That was Dan Cohen and Kim Ives on their film Another Vision Inside Haiti's Uprising. I want to thank the Real News Network and its production team, Cameron Granadino, Adam Coley, David Hebden, and Kayla Rivera. You can find me at chrisedges.substack.com.